Hello everyone and welcome to this writing lesson. In the IELTS writing test, many students have trouble with how well their ideas fit together. Many students also say that they have trouble thinking of ideas. In this video, you'll learn what coherence and cohesion are, why they're so important in IELTS writing, and how to come up with ideas for what to write about. Coherence and cohesion is one of the things that the IELTS writing test looks for. In general, coherence and cohesion refer to how a text is put together so that its ideas stick together and make a whole that makes sense. In coherent essays, the writer uses the proper grammar and vocab to make sure that the ideas flow in a way that makes sense and are logical. Coherence means that ideas are logical and fit together as a whole. If a text is coherent, all of its parts fit together well, and they move in the same direction. Without a coherence, a conversation might not make sense or be hard for people to follow. So a text is coherent if it is arranged and linked in a way that makes sense. A coherent text is clear, logical, and very easy to understand. Basically, to have coherence, the sentences should be organized in a logical manner and should follow a plan of development. That's why you should have an outline, so that you can see your ideas listed one after another. This way, you can see the big picture and easily decide if you have logically set each idea in the right place. Now, I want you to pause the video, read this paragraph, and try to write the outline for this paragraph to check how coherent it is. I live in a house in the north. It isn't old or modern. It's a normal Persian house. We can say it is near the sea. It takes about 10 minutes to go to the seaside on foot. We have one bedroom and one living room. We also have two other rooms too. We use them as a dining room. Naturally, we have a kitchen, a bathroom, and a toilet. I live with my parents. In addition, our house has a little garden. My parents spend their time there to grow vegetables and fruit. Here is an example of a paragraph that is not coherent and has a problem. Let's see the outline for this paragraph so that we would see the ideas in a list. So here are the ideas. As you can see, these ideas in the north, not old or new, normal Persian house, near the sea, one bedroom, one living room, and the garden are all about the house. But this one is not. I live with my parents. It actually just interrupts the coherence of this paragraph because it is irrelevant. Therefore, you should take this sentence out of the paragraph to fix the coherence. Now, cohesion is usually defined as the way a text's grammar and vocab work together to make sense of what it says. Coherence looks at the big picture of a piece of writing, while cohesion looks at the small picture like words, phrases, and sentences and how they fit together to make a whole. So you have good coherence when your ideas are organized, they are relevant, and they make sense in answering the topic question. And you have good cohesion when your ideas connect well and they make sense. To have cohesion, you use cohesive devices. Cohesive devices are words or phrases used to connect ideas between different parts of the text. There are three main types of cohesive devices: pronouns, synonyms, and transition words or signposting. Now, pronouns refer back to a previously mentioned noun, like in this sentence, Jim went out to the playground. He played on the swings. Now here, if you use they instead of he, so if you have they played on the swings, you would lose cohesion between the two ideas of Jim going to the playground and Jim playing on the swings. Also, using a synonym instead of a previously mentioned noun helps cohesion between ideas. Look at this example. There was a lot of food, but she only ate the bread. Another example. Paul saw a snake under the mattress. The serpent had probably been hiding there for a long time. So, as you can see, instead of repeating the word snake, we said serpent to refer this sentence to this one. Now, let's look at an example where we use both the pronouns and synonyms to help a text make sense and have cohesion. Left behind under the sand, her eggs stay deep and safe. Baby turtles grow inside. And before the summer is over, they wriggle from their shells. Above them on the beach, 100 eyes watch, on the lookout for a meal. So the hatchlings wait until night. Now here, they, them, and hatchlings all refer to baby turtles and make the ideas of growing inside and wriggling from their shells and 100 eyes watching them connect well and make clear. So you have good cohesion here. Now let's talk about our last tool used for creating cohesion in your writing. Transition words or signposting. What is signposting? Signposting means using phrases or words that help readers figure out where your essay is going. The argument or discussion in an essay should take the reader on a journey. The paragraphs are like stops along the way. Putting up signposts helps the reader figure out where you want to lead them. Signposts help readers know what will happen, where they are in the process at important points, and where your essay is going. Look at this table now. These are some possible phrases you can use to signpost your writing. You will just need to memorize 2 or 3 words or phrases for each function and learn to use them in your writings. Let's go over the chart together. If you want to add a point, use in addition, as well as, moreover, or what is more. For example, they need to have a computer. In addition, it's necessary to have a fast internet connection. Now, let me tell you a point before I continue. You only need to learn and practice 1 or 2 phrases from each function. In a good essay, it's not very normal for you to use too many transitions. You only use them where necessary to make your writing flow smoothly and make sense. So make sure you practice the phrases you learn and you know the function. Don't ever use any word or phrase that you are not sure about the usage. Let's continue. To express contrast or difference between ideas, you can use however, yet, nevertheless, on the contrary, whereas, and etc. For example, most of them have a computer. However, they don't have access to a fast internet connection. To show that something is the result or effect of something else, you can say consequently, as a result, as a consequence, and therefore. For example, they don't have a fast enough internet connection. Therefore, they can't attend this class. When you want to indicate the reason or purpose of something, say, in order to, because, since, and etc. For example, you will need a fast internet connection in order to attend this class. Since you only have 1 conclusion, you only need to know 1 transition for the concluding paragraph, so don't waste your time learning 2 or 3. Just use in conclusion and you're set. For example, in conclusion, having access to a computer as well as a fast internet connection is a must. And for exemplification, use these. for example, or for instance. For instance, cybercrime can be identified as identity theft. And when you want to be more specific or emphasize a point, you use these. For example, in particular, when you save your PIN on your computer, it can be easily accessed by hackers. For comparison or contrast, you can use these words and phrases. For example, similarly, people might lose other sensitive data if they are not careful. And finally, to rephrase what you have already said, use these. For example, in other words, they should make sure their computers are safe. Some students may wrongly think that putting sentences together will make a text make sense. Here's an example of a text that doesn't make sense, even though the sentences flow together. In other words, there is cohesion within words, phrases, and sentences, but there's no coherence between the ideas. The player threw the ball toward the goalkeeper. Balls are used in many sports such as basketball and volleyball. Most balls are spheres, but American football is an ellipsoid. Fortunately, the goalkeeper jumped to catch the ball just below the crossbar. The crossbar in this soccer game is made of iron. The goalkeeper was standing right there. The sentences and phrases in this text are cohesive, but not coherent. As you can see, there is a use of repetition. For example, the ball, goalkeeper, the crossbar. You can also see the use of conjunctions and transition words like such as, but, and fortunately. But the use of cohesive devices here does not result in a meaningful and unified whole. This is because the writer presents ideas that are unrelated to one single main idea. Why should a writer talk about what the crossbar is made of? And is talking about the form of balls in sports relevant in this context? What is the central focus of the text? A coherent essay needs to flow well and, more importantly, make sense in terms of the main topic. Each paragraph in any piece of writing must have one and only one main idea, which is found in the topic sentence. All the other sentences in the paragraph, which are called supporting sentences, give reasons, explanations, examples, or more information about the main idea. On a larger scale, each essay must also have one main idea, which is stated in the thesis statement at the beginning. The body paragraphs add to and support the main idea by giving more reasons, explanations, examples, or details. So now that you know what is meant by coherence and cohesion, let's take a look at the IELTS writing band descriptor and see what it says for a band 7, coherence and cohesion. It says, logically organizes information and ideas. There is clear progression throughout, uses a range of cohesive devices appropriately, and presents a clear central topic within each paragraph. So this means that if you want to get a good score, you need to first understand what the question is asking you. Then you think of your answers and write down your ideas and reasons. Then you have to put your ideas in order so that they answer the question clearly and logically in 2 to 3 body paragraphs. For your writing to be easy to read and understand, your ideas should flow smoothly from one to the next. To do that, you would have to use a variety of cohesive devices in the right way. And finally, you need to make sure that each body paragraph has a clear central sentence, has a clear topic sentence rather, an explanation, and maybe an example to prove the topic sentence. It should only be about the topic sentence, otherwise you would go off topic. To achieve a high score in the IELTS writing, always take these simple steps. Plan, write, and then revise. Now, it is absolutely necessary to plan before you write your essay. There's no way you can write a coherent essay otherwise. Make sure you spend around 5 minutes planning at the beginning of the test. To plan successfully, be sure to analyze the question, generate ideas, create an outline, and structure your essay. The first thing you need to do when planning your essay is to analyze the question. Obviously, you won't be able to answer the question fully and directly unless you understand it first. Consider this IELTS essay prompt. Many working people get little or no exercise during the working day or in their free time and have health problems as a result. Why do many working people not get enough exercise? What can be done about this problem? The main point of the question is that working people get little or no exercise during the week or in their free time, and this may have health risks for them. There are two questions. One asks what causes this problem, and the other asks what can be done to fix it. So, the best thing to do is to rewrite the question, making sure the specific details of the statement are included. Here is the first question then. Why do many working people not get enough exercise during their working day or in their free time? Now that you know what the question is and what you're supposed to write about, you can ask yourself the question and think about the ideas you want to include in your essay. Just think of one or two simple ideas to discuss. In this case, you need to come up with reasons why people who work don't get enough exercise during the working day and on weekends, and ways to help them fix this problem. So the best thing to do, again, is to take the first question, ask yourself that question, and think of simple reasons. It's enough to have one or two reasons. Then you need to be able to explain each reason and maybe give an example to make your point clear. The first ideas you come up with are normally the best ones. Keep in mind that you won't get extra marks for amazing ideas, so go for the simplest and the most obvious ideas. In other words, you just need to think of something simple and logical. I repeat, a simple and logical idea. Do not use complex ideas that you'll have trouble developing later. Let's look at a complex idea first so that you can see how difficult it would be to talk about something complex. For example, working people may not get enough exercise because of their general lack of interest in any sort of physical activity, which is normally caused as a result of employee burnout due to all the stress and pressure people have to endure in the workplace. This is not a good idea, because it involves a lot of different ideas that all connect to each other. You would have to explain what a burnout is, how employees deal with different kinds of stress and pressure, how this leads to a burnout, and why this may make these people less likely to exercise. So because of this, it is hard and complicated to build. Plus, it's likely that one of the side ideas will draw your attention away from the main point. Remember that a good idea is one that answers the question directly, is easy to understand, and can be expanded easily. Let's look at some examples of good and bad ideas. Like I said, you should look at the question in the prompt before you start coming up with the ideas or answers to it to make sure they are relevant. For every idea in your outline, you need to first read the question to yourself and then come up with a simple answer that can easily be explained. So here's the question. And this is the question you should ask yourself after analyzing the topic carefully, by the way. Why do many working people not get enough exercise during the working day or in their free time? So first of all, you may wonder where this part came from. This part of the question came from this part of the statement. This is why you should be careful when you read the question. So remember that for each idea you think of, you should first read the question and then give the answer to make sure the answer is relevant. Let's look at some ideas and see how relevant they are for our essay. The first idea is they don't have access to appropriate equipment. Do you think this would be a good idea? Well, since we're talking about working people, appropriate equipment is not that relevant. I mean, why shouldn't they have access to a nearby gym unless they live in a remote area? It would be a bit hard to convince the reader, so this is not a very good idea. If we said the equipment is expensive, again, money should not be the main concern for working people because they make money. And there's probably an affordable gym nearby in their city, town, or even village. Your ideas need to make sense. For most working people, the price of equipment or a gym membership fee is probably not a good reason to avoid exercise. Let's look at another bad idea. If we said people have become lazy nowadays, it would not be a good idea to write about. This is too general and therefore hard to expand. It's difficult to believe that the reason many working people do not exercise even in their free time is because they're lazy. There may be some lazy people, but for sure it is not many people. So I would not choose this idea in my writing. Now let's look at this one. Employees don't have enough time during the day to exercise. Now this is directly relevant to the question. It's easy to understand and it sounds quite logical as well. Many working people can agree that they don't have enough time for exercise during the day. Another one, they are too tired to exercise after work. This is also relevant to the question and makes perfect sense. Plus, many working people can relate to this. And finally, exercise is not a priority for many employees because they're not aware of or ignore its health benefits. This idea, of course, could also be true, and it does make sense. So now let's look at some ideas for the second question. The question is, what can be done about this problem? So let's look at some ideas now. The first one is they can use smartphone apps to help them exercise. This is not a bad one, but this could be the best answer for the first two reasons we thought of. Why? Well, this could be a good answer because these apps are usually free and they have workout plans that don't require any equipment. But since the first two reasons for the problem and the topic weren't very logical to begin with, this would not be a good solution either. Another one, more gyms and training centers should be built in cities. This one is a bad idea, although it seems relevant. It's not a logical idea since the reason working people don't exercise is not a lack of sports facilities. Let's look at another one. The government should raise people's awareness of the health benefits of exercise. This one is good. This directly addresses the last cause we mentioned, which was the fact that exercise is not a priority for many employees. And finally, employers should allocate a special time to exercising during working hours. This one is also good. This idea seems like a reasonable way to deal with the problem of time. We said one of the problems employees have is a lack of time and energy. So remember to choose ideas that are relevant, simple, and easy to understand and develop. After you thought about the question and come up with some ideas, you should make an outline to help you organize your essay. An outline is a plan for the whole essay. It tells you what the main points of each paragraph are and what order you should talk about them in. Your outline also includes the explanations and examples you will use to back up these ideas. Generally, when you have an outline and you see the ideas lined up in front of each other, you can easily tell whether they are relevant or not. Therefore, you must have an outline before you start writing. Spending a few minutes on an outline can save you a lot of time when you start writing your essay because, again, it helps you organize your ideas. Also, an outline makes sure that your essay fully and clearly answers the question and the topic. Last but not least, a good outline makes sure that the finished writing makes sense. So here's an outline template you can use for your essays. The introduction consists of the paraphrase of the statement and the topic to show the examiner that you understand the question. A thesis statement to answer the question is used. Now, in this case, being the reasons people don't exercise and ways to solve this problem. And the main points you want to develop in the body paragraphs. Each body paragraph has a topic sentence which introduces the main idea of the whole paragraph. You may, however, decide to include several points to support that main idea. Each supporting point should be expanded by using explanations and examples. Finally, you end your essay by repeating the thesis statement and summarizing the main points, both paraphrased. Let's structure our essay now. For the writing part of the IELTS test, a typical essay has an introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. In your introduction, you should name the main points that you're going to discuss in your body paragraphs. If you are short in time or you think your introduction may become too long, instead of giving the main points after you have given your opinion or answer in the thesis statement, you can say something like, there are 2 reasons that we're going to discuss. Remember not to use memorized phrases in your writing because you will mostly get them wrong. Plus, the examiner will notice them. Also, don't waste your time by starting your introduction with a hook or a motivator to give background information about the topic. You only have 40 minutes to write the essay, so start your introduction by just paraphrasing the topic. This will show the examiner that you understand the question. Again, what the examiner is looking for in the introduction is whether you have understood the question. Well, the paraphrase of the statement and the topic is proof of that. Also, the examiner needs to know what your opinion or position is, which you make clear through the answer you provide for the question and the topic. And the examiner needs to know how you're going to support your opinion or your position, which are the main points at the end of the introduction that guide the examiner as to what the body paragraphs will be about. So let's write our introduction now. This is the topic. We start with paraphrasing the statement in the topic. So here's the paraphrase. Numerous working individuals participate in little or no physical activity throughout the workday or in their free time, resulting in health problems. You don't have to change all the words when you paraphrase. In fact, sometimes it's even better to use the same words. Also, make sure the words you use mean the same thing. Even though synonyms mean the same thing, they may be used in different ways or mean something slightly different. So use your synonyms and figure out what makes them different. Make sure you know the exact meaning of the synonyms you use, because if you use them incorrectly, then it could affect your whole essay. Now, the next step is to come up with a thesis statement. There are 2 questions in the topic. We have already thought of some ideas. I'm going to select these, but let's read the question and then read these ideas as answers to see if we have relevant ideas. Now, why don't people who work exercise enough during the working day or in their free time? They don't have enough time during the day to exercise. They are too tired to exercise after work. They're not aware of its health benefits. Now, these are the causes. What can help working people to exercise more? The government should raise people's awareness of the health benefits of exercise. And employers should allocate a special time to exercising during working hours. And these are the solutions or the answers. To write the thesis statement, you need to answer the two questions in the topic using the ideas we thought about. Here are the ideas written as the answers to our questions. This is due to the fact that they work long hours during the week, leaving them too tired to do anything other than work for most of the week. In addition, they do not understand the need for exercise. The government should raise awareness of the health advantages of physical activity to encourage these individuals to begin exercising. In addition, it may mandate that every employer set aside some time every day for physical activity. And the last step in writing an introduction is pointing out the main ideas. Well, I have already done that. I have answered the question and given the main points. Look at the thesis statement once again. You can see that the thesis statement can be more than one sentence. I also put the main points in the thesis statement because I thought that would make more sense. So keep in mind that you don't always need a separate sentence to say what the main points are. Just make sure to paraphrase the question or problem to show the examiner that you understand what is being asked, give your direct opinion or answer to the question, and mention the main ideas in the introduction. That's all. So here's our introduction. Numerous working individuals participate in little or no physical activity throughout the workday or in their free time, resulting in health problems. This is due to the fact that they work long hours during the week, leaving them too tired to do anything other than work for most of the week. In addition, they do not understand the need for exercise. The government should raise awareness of health advantages of physical activity to encourage these individuals to begin exercising. In addition, it may mandate that every employer set aside some time every day for physical activity. To write the body paragraphs, you need to include a topic sentence, which is one of the main points that we have already mentioned in the introduction, an explanation, and an example if you can think of a relevant one that could prove your point. Make sure the whole paragraph is only about one single idea. Otherwise, you will lose points in coherence and cohesion. In addition, organization plays an important role. Arrange ideas so that they flow smoothly and logically. In other words, no questions should be raised as the examiner reads your work. To ensure the examiner will have no trouble understanding your writing, imagine you're talking to a friend when you brainstorm ideas for the explanations and examples. If you can't think of a good example, you can just give more information to back up your point. At the end of the day, the reader should know what you mean and agree with you. How well you do this will depend on how well you plan before you start writing. During the planning stage, you come up with examples and explanations for each main point and decide how they should be put one after another. When you think of explanations, make sure they are relevant to the main idea and logically supported. This is one of our main ideas. Now, consider this explanation. Most of the good gyms in the area are too crowded. This explanation is obviously irrelevant since it has nothing to do with the idea of lack of time or being tired. Look at this one now. They can only eat, watch TV, and sleep after a long working day. This is a good explanation because it supports the idea that they're too tired to exercise. Similarly, the examples you provide need to be comprehensive and convincing. Look at the same main idea followed by an explanation. Many people, especially those who work long hours, are too tired after work to do anything, let alone exercise. They typically have only the time and strength to eat, watch television, and sleep. This leaves only the weekend for exercise. Nevertheless, they typically fill this time with activities other than physical activities. Now, look at this example. For example, my father is always tired when he gets home after work, and on weekends he normally visits his parents. That's why he never does any exercise. Now, let me give you an important tip. This is only about your father and may not be true for everyone. Therefore, it won't be a good example. A better alternative would be, for example, many individuals choose to spend their time visiting family and friends or browsing social media. This is a better example because it involves a lot of people and seems more convincing. So once again, think of examples that clarify your explanations and help the reader understand your point. When you try to come up with ideas, sometimes you think of an idea first and then try to think of an example for it. Sometimes, though, you might start by coming up with an example. In this case, you can then find a way to connect that example to your main idea and show how this particular example can support your main idea. What matters is that they make sense and are related to the topic. So here is a list of explanations and examples of the stuff I have come up with to support the main idea. So the first supporting point is working long hours and people being tired after work, for which we have this explanation: after work where they're too tired and to do anything, but they can only watch TV and eat. And we've explained that the only time they're left with is the weekend, where or when they can actually exercise. We've come up with an example of the things they do instead of exercising, like visiting family and friends or browsing the social media, which, are the things that people do instead of exercise. So the second supporting point is the fact that they don't value physical activity. What they usually think to themselves is why they should exercise when they don't have any health issues and it's not very fun. And the example I thought of for bringing up is the fact that the social media takes up a lot of time of a lot of people. The second main idea is the fact or the solution that one way would be to increase public awareness of the advantages of physical activity. The explanation we've come up with that is one way would be to establish campaigns to urge individuals to exercise daily, and an example would be through social media sites. The second major point, having all employers set a time for mandatory exercise. An explanation would be exercising at work would solve the problem of lack of energy because people would no longer have an excuse. And an example would be a 30-minute break time for exercise during work. Now, the concluding paragraph. The concluding paragraph is an essential part of an essay, without which you will lose points in task response. However, it is the easiest part of the essay writing, since all you need is basically a paraphrase of the introduction. Your conclusion should include a paraphrase of your answers to the question and the topic, which is your thesis statement, and a summary of the main points. So this is our introduction. And here is the same paragraph that is rephrased. Let's read it together. In conclusion, people who work frequently do not receive adequate exercise because they are too exhausted and or do not realize its benefits. This poses a danger to their health. So to encourage these individuals to exercise, the government should inform them of the health benefits of physical activity and require that some time per day be set aside for physical activity in every job. So that's it. Now look at the whole essay and notice how the main ideas are developed in the body paragraphs. Make sure you have at least 5 minutes to read over your essay and fix your mistakes. When you check your essay, you should first make sure that you have directly and completely answered the questions and that there are no irrelevant points. You should also make sure that each paragraph logically explains one main point and that everything makes sense. You should also check for repeated words that may need to be changed to a synonym and look for grammar and vocabulary mistakes. Remember that no one can write a good essay on their first try, so leave yourself enough time to check what you have written. When you're writing, do not worry about grammar or vocabulary. All you need to focus on is the content. You can worry about everything else when you're revising your writing. Make sure you answer the questions in the topic and that the points you make are clear and easy to understand. Once you have finished writing, start revising your essay. By no means should you leave out this last step. I make mistakes every time I write, so I need to go back and read the whole text to make sure. You need to do that too. Now, here is a checklist of the things that you have to do or you have to have in front of you after you're finished writing your essay. So here's the checklist. You need to make sure that you have answered the questions directly. All your ideas are relevant. The ideas are logical and easy to understand. The ideas are arranged logically. There is cohesion between the sentences. There is coherence throughout the text. There are no errors in grammar, vocab, punctuation, and etc. And you've used a range of grammatical structures as well as the right vocabulary. If not, you should change some sentences or parts of some sentences. So to recap, if you want to write a well-structured, coherent essay in your task 2 and achieve a good score, spend about 5 minutes planning your essay. Then you will have about 30 minutes to write, and finally allocate about 5 minutes to proofread your work. Now, if you haven't already noticed, the essay we were working on was about what causes a problem, like not getting enough exercise, and how to fix it. For many people, the most difficult type of IELTS essay to write is a problem solution or cause-effect essay. The way they are written can be very different, which can make it hard to know what to say in response. Generally, you'll be asked to write about problem and solution, cause and solution, or just the solution to a specific problem. As we've already talked about in this video, you need to carefully look at the question. First, let's look at some examples of how questions can be asked in different ways. What do you think the causes are? What solution can you suggest? State some reasons for this and provide possible solutions. What issues does this cause and how can they be addressed? What are some resulting problems and how can we deal with them? What problems arise from this and how can they be tackled? Why is this? How might it be remedied? What are the reasons for this and how can the situation be improved? Why is this happening and what measures can be taken to tackle this problem? And here are a few questions where you only have to write about the solution. How can this situation be improved? What solutions can you suggest to deal with this problem? How can this problem be solved? What measures could be taken to prevent this? Let's look at some common mistakes that students make when writing problem-solution essays. Students sometimes have too many ideas. It isn't enough to just have a lot of good ideas. Ideas are worthless on their own. They need to be explained and shown through examples. So try to come up with a couple of ideas and then think about how you can explain those ideas. What really matters is how well your ideas are put together and how convincing you sound. Another problem students have is that they do not cover all parts of the task. Sometimes students focus on just the problem or only the solution, which leads to an unbalanced essay. Both these issues will result in a low score for task response. Try to keep your problems and solutions the same length. Students may also sometimes confuse problem and cause. The cause is the reason for the problem. Look at these examples. Problem: I missed the last bus home after visiting my friend for the evening. Cause: I misread the timetable and thought the bus left at 22:45 when it actually left at 22:35. And finally, students sometimes do not link the problems and solutions. Don't forget that the solutions you offer should directly address the same parts of the problem or the same causes that you talked about in your writing. For example, in our sample writing, one of the reasons working people don't get enough exercise is because they don't have time or energy after work. As a solution, we suggested that employers force their employees to exercise during part of their workday, which makes perfect sense. Now, let's say we said employers should pay back gym membership fees that employees pay. That wouldn't matter because it wouldn't solve the problem of not having enough time and energy. Now, let's look at an essay with the same topic written by a student and see where the problems are in this writing. Here is the introduction paragraph, which is written by the student. These days, employees' lives are believed to be lack of sports activity, due to which they are suffering from different diseases. This tendency is known to have been brought about by a number of factors that are going to be outlined in this essay below. In the first sentence, this student has tried to rewrite the statement and the topic. Here, are believed to be lack of sports activity obviously doesn't make sense as not correct. The student wanted to say people believe employees have a lack of sports activities, and because of this, they suffer from different diseases. You should be careful about the words you use when you want to use synonyms. Here, the student is saying that if you don't work out, you will get diseases. We all know that you only get diseases if you're near a sick person. You don't get diseases for not exercising. So you have to be careful when using synonyms. Also, here, this tendency is known to have been brought about by a number of factors. This is a cliche. It's memorized. The examiners know that. Don't use things that you have memorized. Now, where is the thesis statement here? Instead of using cliches, your thesis statement should answer the topic question. If we wanted to write the thesis statement and mention the main points, we would need to know what the writer is trying to say in the first and second bodies. In the first body paragraph, the writer says that people don't exercise because they're tired. In the second body paragraph, the writer says that having a schedule is the best way to get people to exercise. So if you paraphrase the statement and simply add these 2 points, you would have a nice introduction. Like this: many people who work get little or no exercise during the day or in their free time, which can be bad for their health. This is because people who work are often tired when they get home, but if they plan their day well, they can find time to exercise. That's it. When the examiner reads this, he or she will know right away what the problem is. He or she will also know that in the first body paragraph, you will explain why people do not exercise. And in the second body paragraph, you will explain what these people can do to find time to exercise. So here's body paragraph 1 written by the student. Regarding why this phenomenon occurred, it might be due to the general tiredness of people after having a workday. As a matter of fact, after the end of the hard day, individuals have to deal with a choice whether to do some exercise or go to sleep earlier to be more productive the next day. Undeniably, people trust their minds about being extremely tired along with the absence of strength, so they are likely to reschedule sport on the other day, which is supposed to be free. The topic sentence here says, regarding why this phenomenon occurred, blah, blah, blah. Now, this writer is referring to a lack of sport activity as a phenomenon. But why phenomenon? Phenomenon means a remarkable person or thing. For example, glaciers are interesting natural phenomena. But what is so remarkable about not doing exercise? If I were an examiner, I would think that this is a memorized clause. Okay, so let's say the writer didn't use the word phenomenon and just said, regarding why this occurred. Regarding why this occurred is like saying, you want to know why this happened? It's not necessary here to say if you want to know why this happened. When the examiner reads this, he might even think to himself that he really doesn't want to know, but he's getting paid rather to read your essay, so he has to know, but he's not very interested. So stuff like this add no meaning to the text, and they just take up space in a useless way, and they usually even raise eyebrows. Don't write things that raise eyebrows. Memorized items usually do that. It also makes the idea of people being tired sound weird. Okay, so let's go to the last point. The last point, let's take a look at this again. Regarding why this phenomena occurred is also in the past tense. But our topic is not about the past. We're generally talking about why people don't exercise, and this means in the present tense. So do you see why you should not use memorized stuff? Anyway, here's how this sentence could be changed. People are often tired after a long day of work. A sentence as simple as this would work just fine. Now, look at this sentence. As a matter of fact, after the end of the hard day, individuals have to deal with a choice whether to do some exercise or go to sleep earlier to be more productive the next day. Now, in this part, I would change this phrase to at the end of a long day to make it sound more natural. In this part of the sentence, it seems like the student is focused on using a phrasal verb like to deal with a choice instead of paying attention on how he wants to convince the reader that tired working people avoid exercise. When you deal with a choice, there is a difficult decision that you have to make, so you must totally focus. Therefore, it would sound weird if you said, I have to deal with a choice to either work out or go to bed. One would think, how complicated is this choice that you have to deal with? So during your test, don't be focused on using the phrasal verb or the expression you practiced once. Just be focused on answering the question in your first draft. So this is what the student is really saying here. The student is really saying, in fact, at the end of a long day, people have to decide whether to work out or go to bed earlier so they can be more productive the next day. The question I ask after reading this sentence is, why is the writer saying they either decide to exercise or go to bed earlier? Do people who exercise usually go to bed late? Do you see how this is not making much sense? Let's look further. In this sentence, people trust their minds doesn't sound natural. It would be better to say, people don't lie to themselves about being extremely tired. Further ahead, on the other day here is wrong and should be changed to on another day when they are free. There are only 3 sentences in this paragraph. And if we simplify these sentences and just list the ideas in this paragraph, this is what we get. The question this paragraph is trying to answer again is, why do many working people not get enough exercise during the working day or in their free time? And by the way, I added this part to the question from the original topic statement right here. Many working people get little or no exercise during the working day or in their free time. So this is the part I was talking about, and have health problems as a result. So here are the answers or the ideas this student has given. People are tired after work. They must decide if they should exercise after work or sleep. When they are tired, they reschedule exercise. Now, this first idea answers the question directly, and that's why it is the topic sentence. This idea seems irrelevant because it doesn't answer this question. And this seems like an explanation for the topic sentence. So I'm going to get rid of this idea, leaving me with only these two. When you write down your ideas and explanations, you can see how well they fit together and how logically you're answering the question. This helps you make sure your answers are well organized and coherent. So I'm going to add this point and say people only have the weekends left. Then I want to say that they are not really able to exercise on weekends either, and then say why. I can easily give some examples or just say why. I'm going to say on weekends, they usually don't get much exercise either because so many things come up. So now I need some examples and we are done. Now, the examples I thought of were unexpected invitations to fun places, call from their sick grandmother asking for help, or broken garage door that has been waiting for weeks to be fixed. And here's the edited paragraph. People are often too tired to exercise after long working days. When they're tired, they reschedule and put it off to a later time. In the end, the only time these people usually have left to do physical activities is on the weekends. On the weekends, however, they don't usually get much exercise either because so many things come up, like unexpected invitations to fun places they can't refuse, or a call from their sick grandmother asking for help, or a broken garage door that has been waiting for weeks to be fixed. Let's look at the second paragraph. This paragraph is supposed to answer this question. What can be done so that these tired people do more exercise after work or in their free time? Here's what the student says in body paragraph 2. One way of solving this problem is planning a timetable more rationally. To be more specific, usually individuals do not plan their time accurately, after which they suffer from a lack of time to do their exercise. Moreover, nowadays there is a boom of social media due to which people spend an enormous amount of their free time scrolling posts on their phones. In other words, they do not even notice how long they have been wasting their time looking for others' lives. Consequently, there is always enough time to do some sports activities only when an individual has a proper plan of his or her daytime. And here is an edited version of this paragraph. So, for the topic sentence, I replaced planning a timetable more rationally with a well-planned timetable. More rationally should change to well-planned, because when you say plan more rationally, you mean that you had an irrational plan before, and now you need a plan that's more rational. Again, please don't just add words to make your writing longer or fancier. Your task response and your coherence score could go down if you do this. Look at the second sentence. Instead of plan their time accurately, it would be better to say plan their day well. I changed the word time to the word day because in the same sentence here we have the word time. In addition, accurately sounds a bit too much here because you need an accurate plan to build a rocket, not to fit in exercise in your timetable. And when you say suffer from a lack of time to do exercise, you're making it sound a bit awkward again. Suffer means experiencing something really bad. Don't try to complicate your sentences. Keep writing simple and accurate. This sentence can be changed to, they don't have enough time to exercise. That's it. So now we have an explanation of the topic sentence. This student has actually pointed at two ideas. One idea is planning a timetable, which is the topic sentence. And the second one is here, where it says, moreover, there is a boom of social media. The transition word moreover indicates that we are adding an idea, whereas watching the social media is actually a reason why people waste time. So it is actually an explanation towards why we should start planning our time. So we're going to delete this transition word, and instead we would have to make some kind of connection to the last sentence, which says that there isn't enough time to work out, and explain why there isn't enough time. So as you can see, I have put down this shortage of time may partly be due to the fact that people spend a lot of their free time on social media scrolling through posts. Now, in this sentence, the phrase, in other words, shows that we're going to restate or repeat what we just said. This sentence, however, just adds to the idea by saying that people don't realize they're wasting their time on social media. So this sentence is not paraphrasing the previous sentence. A better transition word here would be surprisingly instead of in other words, because the writer needs to show that it is surprising that people don't know they are wasting their time on social media. And in this last part of the sentence, the writer is probably trying to say that people nose into each other's life through social media, which seemed a bit irrelevant, so I deleted it. Instead, I added that people could exercise instead of browsing the social media. As for the last sentence, consequently means as a result. Do you think the writer meant to say, as a result, there is always enough time to exercise? As a result of what? As a result of the fact that people don't realize they're wasting time? A better replacement could be at the end of the day or in the end. This would mean whatever they do, there is always enough time for exercise if they plan their day well. The ideas in this paragraph seem to have coherence, but the wrong usage of words and transitions can ruin the cohesion and result in it not making much sense. Finally, we get to the concluding paragraph. The first sentence needs to be rearranged because it doesn't make much sense. Let's read it together. To conclude, nowadays people are so exhausted after doing their work, due to which they unfortunately do not have enough energy to do some exercises. Here, the student was just trying to say, in conclusion, people are so exhausted after work that they don't have the energy to work out. Remember, don't make your sentences too complicated. You need to make sense. The same story applies to the second sentence here. Let's read it. The second sentence says, to prevent that issue, people should plan their day more properly, along with stop using different distractors, such as a phone, in their leisure time. Now, let's read the corrected sentence. To solve this problem, people should plan their days better and stop doing things that waste their free time, like browsing social media. This would make time in their schedules for exercise. So let's compare the two conclusions. I want you to pause your video, compare these two conclusions, and see how they are different. Now, which one do you think was easier to understand? Remember, keep your writing simple and make sure you answer the questions. Then you can worry about making your writing look better when you edit it.